going on, everybody? Today is Monday and it's chest and back day. Thank you so much for joining me in this video where we're going to go over everything that we did in today's workout just to help benefit and educate you guys. So typically what we'd like to do before we start working out is 5 to 10 minutes of very light cardio just to get all of the blood flowing in the body, make sure we have blood flowing through all of our extremities before we actually start to engage in some muscle activation exercises. So typically for all upper body days, we like to start off with external rotation of the shoulder, internal rotation of the shoulder, and again a posterior rotation of the shoulder just to make sure that we have some good synovial fluid flowing in our joints before we actually start to apply tension to the muscles. I also like to do a tricep or a bicep warm-up, typically for all chest and back days. What guys are gonna be seeing next is me sitting down, and what I'm doing here is going through some pronation of my wrist to open up my back. You'll see pronation there, opening, stretching my lats, and then supinating and squeezing and contracting my lats. Keep in mind that the closer your elbows actually get to your spine, the shorter your lat muscles get. So what I'm trying to do here is basically turn on my lats because I know I'm going to be using them in today's workout. Again, it's just a simple pronation forward, rounding, opening, and then rotating to supination right after that to squeeze and contract the lats. Coming up next, we're going to go into some activation exercises where I'm stretching the pec muscle and then squeezing and contracting the pec muscle for about 5 repetitions or so. The main reason why I really like to do these is because I believe that by you flexing and activating the muscles you're going to be utilizing, your central nervous system has a direct link to be able to turn that muscle on. So you guys can see here what I'm doing is I'm retracting my scapula into the bench. I never want my upper back to be loose, making sure that my scapula is squeezed together on the bench, creating a very tight upper back. And in regards to bench press execution, I know that a lot of people typically take their humerus bones and keep them more towards their bodies. However, if you want to directly isolate your pectoralis muscles, what you'll do, and you'll see me doing here on the bench, this was the heaviest I went on this day, is take your humerus and keep it away from your body. So you're going to notice my elbows are going straight out to the sides. And what this is doing is it's overloading the upper portion, the upper clavicular region of my pecs, which is exactly where I want it. If my humerus bones were more towards the midline of my body, it would take less off of the upper clavicular region of my pecs and actually put it more on my anterior deltoids and my triceps, which obviously for bodybuilding we do not want. Coming up next, growing on me is one of my favorite back exercises now. But the different factor here, sorry, is we're utilizing D-rings for the handle. So you guys can see here we're not actually utilizing the hammer strength apparatus handles, but we slid some D-rings on there to change the grip position. So now we're in a neutral grip position, and what I'm really trying to focus on here is depressing my scapula on every single rep and then driving down to a full contraction. Now on both of those exercises, I believe we did 3 sets of 10 with as heavy weight as we could. Moving into our next exercise, we have the dumbbell flat bench press. Now again, keep in mind the humerus position dictates how much of your pec or how much of your chest muscle is actually recruited. So while most people will have their elbows closer and more tucked into their body, it doesn't place the shoulder in as vulnerable of a position, and you do recruit less of your pec muscles when you do bench with your elbows closer to your body. Keep in mind that powerlifting and bodybuilding are 2 very separate things, and any simple basic anatomy chart will show you how to stretch and contract your chest muscles. That was an awesome set. I ended up sticking with 80 pounds on that day for 3 sets of 10. All right, So you guys remember earlier what I was talking about in regards to the angle of your humerus dictates what muscles are recruited. So right before I started this set, I showed you guys that you could either pull with your elbows going lower towards your body or towards your spine, or you can keep your elbows kind of more out to the side like I'm doing here, which does recruit more of the mid back. Now if my elbows were going lower, more towards my pockets, I'd only be focusing on recruiting my lat muscles. At the same time, if my elbows were driving directly up, so if my humerus was actually in line with my shoulder, then I'd be completely isolating, then I would be completely isolating my upper back, which would be the rear deltoids, the traps, teres minor, teres major. So I changed up the angle just to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about from a different angle. So here what I'm focusing on, and you can see my hand position is actually lower on the handles, and I'm really trying to squeeze the middle of my traps. But what you're going to see is I'll stop the set and I'll move my hands up a bit. Now what I'm trying to do is keep my humerus as elevated as possible so that I can activate my upper back, mainly the rear delts, traps, and rhomboids. So to give you guys a visual representation of what I'm saying, if you track Gillis's humerus bone from his shoulder to his elbow, the direction in which he pulls directly impacts what muscles he's working. So right now, because his humerus is high, his elbows are high, he's working his upper back. So his traps, teres minor, teres major, the middle of his traps, and his rear delts. Minorly working his lats. But if he drives his elbows down, his humerus more towards his spine, what's going to happen is he's going to recruit his lats instead. So hopefully that tip was extremely helpful. I did go ahead and take a clip here of my friend Gillis executing the same movement with his hands a bit higher on the handles. And as you can see here, because his humerus is even with his shoulder girdle, it actually is recruiting mainly his upper back. Now this is an exercise I get a lot of questions on, and what you want to focus on here to activate the lateral head of the deltoid specifically, not the trap, is you actually want to drive outward with the elbow, not directly up. This will completely separate you from training your lateral deltoid versus your trapezius muscle. Right after that, we went into weighted dips. We both executed this movement with, I believe, 3 chains around our necks. Not 2 chains, but 3. And executed 3 sets of 10 here. So what I'm really trying to do, and what you guys are going to see, that's something that's very common within all of my exercises, is that I'm under complete control of the movement with the weight that I'm using. So I really like to try to overload the eccentric phase of the exercise for roughly 2 to 3 seconds, and then always finish with a very strong concentric phase of that same exercise. Finishing up this workout, I did 3 sets of partial lateral deltoid flies here. So you guys can see that what I'm doing is I'm first and foremost overloading the shortened position of the lateral delt, and then I'm going to the stretched position, same thing, executing the fly in the same movement pattern. Now keep in mind, I'm not too concerned about my form here. I'm really just trying to get as much blood flowing in that muscle as possible, since we did not do too much to activate them. So here we're actually focusing more on the metabolic stress aspect of training and the cell swelling aspect of training. Now right after that awesome upper body workout, what I decided to do was some stretching. Now for those of you who are clients of mine, those of you who have utilized one of my training programs, you guys know that I do like to incorporate some stretching in there for the sole purpose that anytime you are causing extreme muscle damage to either your chest, your back, your legs, whatever it is, I believe that you need to spend some time to make sure that those muscles can stay flexible over time, as obviously we don't want to be walking around extremely stiff. So what I'm doing here is a lat stretch and an upper back stretch. And what I'm really trying to focus on here is just trying to get that lat muscle as long as I can. You're going to notice that throughout this video I'm kind of maneuvering my hand position for the sole purpose that if you maneuver your hand position basically from pronation to supination, or even a neutral position, you can actually target different pieces of either the lat or the chest. So what I'm going to do is actually switch that up here really quick. roll it out just a little, feel it out, and then we're actually going to take the same apparatus and apply tension to our pec muscle. As you guys can see here, my elbow is locked out, my humerus is relatively elevated, and what I'm trying to do in a neutral hand position is stretch my pecs as much as I can. Now I do believe, yep, right there. So I do believe that I went into supination, and you can see that by going into supination, now I'm feeling it more in my upper clavicular region, which is exactly where we were targeting when we started out this workout with the incline bench press. Now again, just following that up, I think that stretching and being flexible is extremely important for the sole purpose that whenever you're very flexible, you can typically go through a full range of motion with just about every single exercise. And most people are only strong in a specific piece of a range of motion. However, I do believe now, after having trial and errored so much throughout my training career, that it's extremely important to be strong in all of the range of motion, whether that be the extremes of the range of motion, which is typically full extension and full flexion. Most of us are only strong in the middle, so try to prioritize getting strong in all of the range of motion instead of just one singular piece. Guys, thank you so much, those of you who took the time to watch that video. We really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see leg day tomorrow, go ahead and like this video, leave a comment down below, and I'd be more than happy to connect with you guys in the comment section. Leg day coming up tomorrow.